Chapter 9, The Story of a Song, the explanation of the lesson. The carol Silent Night is one of the most popular Christmas carols, which is sung in about 300 languages. So here in this story, we are going to read about how this song came into existence, how this carol came into existence and how it became so popular. The year was 1818 and the date was 23rd December. A band of actors had arrived at a small St. Nicholas Church in Oberndorf, a village in Salzburg, Austria, to enact the story of Jesus Christ's birth. However, the church organ was in despair. The actors consequently performed the drama in a private home. The moving story of Christ's birth put the assistant pastor of the church, Father Joseph Moore, in a reflective mood, and he decided to take a longer route back home that night. The route led him to the top of a hill that overlooked his village. That night, he saw a peaceful, snow-covered village from the top of the hill and felt a calm silence within him. He remembered that he had written a poem 2 years ago, that is in 1816, about another beautiful night when angels announced to a group of shepherds who were tending their flocks on a hillside near Bethlehem about the birth of the Messiah. So this is the story about the carol Silent Night. This is about 1818, in the year 1818, when a band of actors had come to enact the story of Jesus' birth in the church at St. Nicholas Church in Austria. But because the organ, the large musical instruments that are olden time musical instruments that are similar to the piano, was out of order, it was not working, it needed repair but was not repaired, so they had to perform in a house, in some person's house in that village. The performance was so well that the assistant pastor, the priest of the church, while returning from that house to the church, was in a very reflective mood. That means he was in a very thoughtful mood. In that thoughtful, reflective mood, he decided to take a long route while going to the church, back to his home where he stayed. So he could see he went over the mountain hill and he could see that over the hill he could see the village. It was covered with snow, and he was reminded of a poem that he had written 2 years back, that is in 1816, which spoke about the birth of Jesus, where the angels announced to the shepherds at night about the birth of a Messiah, a Savior, in the town of Bethlehem. The poem was Stille Nacht, written in German. Father Joseph Moore thought that it could make a good carol for the Christmas Eve Mass the following evening, that is on 24th December 1818. He faced a serious problem. Though he didn't have any music to accompany his words, he met the church organist Franz Xaver Gruber the next day and shared his concern. Gruber too was in a fix. He had his work cut out for him, with only a few hours available to come up with a medley. The talented Gruber finally managed to compose a simple medley before time, one that could be sung with just a guitar. Both Moore and Gruber felt relieved and couldn't care less thereafter about the fact that the church organ was in despair. That Christmas Eve, the Oberndorf congregation heard the new composition for the first time. Here are the lyrics of the first stanza of the song in English. We will read that ahead. So Father Joseph Moore came up with an idea, and he thought that on the Christmas Eve Mass, that is on the 24th night, he would introduce this poem as a medley, as a carol, into the congregation, to the group of people that come to the church. So he would introduce it to the congregation of the church and for the Christmas Eve Mass. But for that he had to speak to the church organist. That was Franz Xaver Gruber. He was the church organist. And so Father told his concern about the carol, and Gruber also he cut down all his work, whatever work he had to do. He stopped all that and came up with a very simple medley for that carol, Silent Night. So the first stanza of the song or the carol, Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child. Holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. So these were the wordings of the German poem Stille Nacht, translated to English, the first paragraph or the first stanza of the song Silent Night. Some weeks later, Karl Moracher, an organ builder, arrived at Oberndorf to repair the church organ. After the repairs, Gruber tested the same beautiful composition on the organ. Moracher had heard it for the first time that day and was spellbound. Now Karl Moracher was the organ builder. That means he came to repair the organ of the church, and he came there to the church and repaired the organ. And after repairing of the organ, Gruber, that is the church organist, he tested the organ with the same song, Silent Night. And Moracher had heard the song for the first time, and he was absolutely impressed, very, very impressed by the simple composition of the song. He was so enamored of the medley that he took copies of it back to his village, Kapling, where two famous families of singers, the Rainers and the Strassers, heard it, loved it, and then helped in popularizing it further. The Rainers carried the carol to the United States of America, while the Strassers performed it across the northern Europe. It wasn't, however, until 1863 that the famous German carol was translated into English. The rest, as they say, is history. In 2011, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, that is the UNESCO, declared Silent Night an intangible cultural heritage, that is ICH, in the short form of the abbreviation of it, a great honor marking the carol's permanent place in the religious expression of Christmas or Christians around the world. Now, Morasha, the organ builder, was so impressed that he took a lot of copies of the song with him to his village, that is Kapfling. And there were two singer families, the families who had singers in their family. They were the Rainers and the Strossers. They heard the song and they loved it, and they helped in popularizing it further. How? Rainers, they carried it to United States of America and popularized it there. And the Strossers, they popularized it in the Northern Europe. So that's how the carol Silent Night became popular all over the world from a small village in Austria. So, but only in 1863 it was translated to English language. The song was composed, written as a poem in German, and also composed as a song in the German language. But only in 1863 it was translated to English language, and thereafter it is history. We all know the song very well. In 2011, the UNESCO, they declared the song as an intangible. Intangible is it is untouchable. There is no measure of the cultural heritage that this carol Silent Night has, and it has become a very important permanent part of the Christians all over the world as their heritage song. So that's the beautiful story that we have about the Silent Night.